I'm going to tell you about the worst money I ever invested in business. All of a sudden you have 2 and 3 stores across, multiple provinces. I hadn't recovered financially from the first one of rolling basically, my first $250,000 in savings. That sometimes when you think you can scale because you're just going to add whatever it is that you're doing now, 2 things I would watch out for. After 15 years of entrepreneurship, generating multiple 7 figures through mostly online business and some retail storefront, I'm going to tell you about the worst money I ever invested in business. Now, the disclaimer is all money invested in personal development and or business is a good thing. The reason being is because it's going to teach you what not to do as quickly as what to do. And I think that that is a huge part of entrepreneurship, especially when you study great leaders, entrepreneurs, and thinkers. Most of them have made multiple mistakes that have turned them into the person that they are now. But I thought it would be a fun game in retrospect, and particularly about scaling. And so when I opened my first supplement store, retail supplement store, I thought it was going to be so much fun because I loved supplements. I was obsessed with them. They were my first love in fitness and kind of, I guess, still are. I find the industry moves very slow because it's very profit-centered, even more so than when I got into it. However, I thought starting a supplement store, it was like, I'm going to be able to carry the cutting-edge products, help solve problems. And what you find out is it's not really true because like anything else, there's a hierarchy and a power structure. And you start to realize that you actually are not incentivized to sell the best products because they don't make the most money. And now you have employees, you have, a franchise that you have to answer to. You can't just bring in whatever you want. Started to really sour the taste of that business. And I had caught this early on, actually, inside of this, even in my first store. And then I thought, well, at least I'll make some money from doing this, right? And it became like a monetary chase. So it moved away from passion. And then I thought, let me open a second store. Let me open a third store. And admittedly, I wasn't the operator of a business that I am now because I hadn't learned near as much as I'm sitting with. And that caused me to scale way too early. I hadn't recovered financially from the first one of rolling basically, my first $250,000 in savings into that first business. And I've never funded a business through a bank. All of my business endeavors that I've ever invested in personal development have all been self-funded. A lot of people would tell me that's stupid, but it makes me feel a sense of power, and it makes me feel like I don't have to answer to someone. And maybe that means that I won't grow as big as I can, and I'm sure I'll have to change my mind on that. But to this point, I've never needed to use outside funding. And so I thought I'm making a little bit of money now. Let me just double and triple that and open some more stores, and that will help. It doesn't. And I didn't realize that my job was going to change. Because at least with one store, I was in the store interacting with the customers. I was having these deep conversations about the product and helping them get into what I thought would be the best thing for them. All of a sudden you have 2 and 3 stores across, multiple provinces. You're having to travel a lot. You're just managing managers and product inventory. I hate inventory, and I do not like selling a bunch of things for a low cost at a high volume. I would rather sell expensive things at a low volume, which is why, consulting, the coaching business is way more fulfilling to me. I would rather get into the depths of the weeds with someone, like all the way deep, instead of just kind of solving these little surface level problems where I have to sell, 1,000 items, just to really make any profit and see just, $20 profit for an entire sale, which there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do great in a volume model, but I'm not a volume model type of person. And I didn't even know that before starting a retail business. And so I had to learn all these things. The point of this video is that sometimes when you think you can scale because you're just going to add whatever it is that you're doing now, 2 things I would watch out for. One, your job is probably going to change with a scale. And if you're not prepared for that job change and it doesn't fulfill you, or you don't see an exit way out. It's one thing for your job to change, but knowing that it's going to change and already having a contingency for, okay, then I'll pivot into this 1 year later, I can hire someone to replace me and I'll go to this other thing inside of the business itself. But if you just get trapped inside of a job that you hate, I would argue that that's not going to produce very much fruit. The second thing that I would watch for, and this is really hard for me to admit, I had a gym, I had multiple supplement stores, I had a marketing agency, and a coaching business, a mentorship business. And I thought that having all these businesses made me successful, like ego and pride. That's it. And right now, I'm proud to say I essentially have two. I have the Why Not Us podcast, and then I have this very rebuild coaching. And all of my efforts go into those two things from a business standpoint. And I financially do way better than I was doing with all of those other businesses, all of those other stresses, and being pulled in 10 different directions. And so I think it was Confucius that said, "He who chases many rabbits catches none." This could not be more true in business. And listen, we'll get into this in some further videos, but if you have a growing and scaling business, you're going to feel pain. If you have a business that's flatlined, you're going to feel pain. If you have a business that is going downward, you're going to feel pain. And so as an entrepreneur, get ready to chew glass and learn to love the taste, because no matter where your business is headed, you're going to be under massive amounts of stress. If you reframe your reality that that's how it's supposed to be and feel, and that there's nothing wrong, the journey will lay itself out in a much more pleasant fashion. I hope you guys like this video. I'm going to start talking about a lot more of the experiences I have, because with YouTube content, I don't get limited by 30-second clips. And it means a lot to me for you to watch these videos. And I would just ask that you like, subscribe, share if there was any value at all, because it is a lot of commitment to put into this content and things like this, but I do think that I have some life experiences that'll help many young people and even people more advanced in age who are looking to level up their personal development journeys. Welcome to the Rebuild, and thank you very much for being here.